Direct Connection is made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities and is made possible by the generous support of our members. Thank you. Live from Maryland Public Television, this is Direct Connection with Jeff Salkin.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for tuning in for Direct Connection. Later in the program, we connect with expert advice on recovering from a stroke. But we begin with a terror attack on a gay nightclub in Orlando. We spoke about it with Maryland Congressman Dutch Ruppersberger. Congressman, your thoughts on Orlando and what we've learned about the shooter's background?
Well, first thing, this is a terrible, horrific crime. Not only was it a hate crime, but it was a crime of terrorism. We're all very concerned, and we also are really, our hearts go out to the families, the friends, and also to all Americans who feel that they have been attacked, and we have. I think right now the FBI are conducting a very technical, thorough investigation. Some of the things that they're looking for are, number one, how was this person radicalized? We know ISIS is very are using social media to radicalize and to recruit people here in the United States and all over the world. Was ISIS involved in this prior to the attack, or were they just taking credit after the attack? We want to find out this individual's background. I mean, for him to be able to kill so many people in a short period of time, he had to have some training to be able to do this. These are all things that we're looking for.
Your thoughts, sir, on the previous interactions that he had with the FBI up until a couple of years ago?
I think if you go to any FBI office even now, you'll see there's a lot of volume where people complaining or giving tips on possible people associated with terrorists. I think the FBI did a thorough investigation. What they determined is that this individual, even though they had allegations and issues like that he wasn't committing any laws. Breaking any laws. In our country, we follow the Constitution, and you can't arrest anyone unless they break a law, or you can't search anyone unless you show probable cause. And in this situation, that just didn't exist. And this is going to be a problem that we have to deal with in the future, because if you want more people, you want more longer investigations like this, we're going to need more resources. And right now, Congress can't even pass a budget, which is inexcusable. Congress needs to pick their priorities and not just cut everything across the board. And this is an example where we need to give the resources to our federal, state, and local law enforcement officials to make sure we give them the resources and the technology that they can protect us, protect our families and our communities and our country.
Are you saying the FBI dropped it because of a lack of resources?
I'm not saying they dropped it. I really don't have evidence one way or another, why he was dropped off the list. I assume that could have been that after a couple of years that there wasn't any activity, so they moved forward because they have a lot of volume. But, in order to be able to fight international terrorism, to deal with the threats that are out there that are very severe, we need to give not only our military the resources who are fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq, but also those people such as the FBI, such as our state and local law enforcement, the resources and the ability to do the job to protect us.
And of course, the other thing that's been getting a lot of attention is the weaponry, the AR-15 that the shooter had access to.
It's extremely unfortunate during an election year that this issue of Second Amendment is being used on one side or the other. I'm on the side that says, we're not trying to take away anyone's Second Amendment right, but we are saying that these assault weapons, that these weapons are not weapons that are being used for hunting or sport or anything of that nature. These are assault weapons. And if you look at all of the attacks that we've had in South Carolina, in Connecticut, in Colorado, all of those individuals that really perpetrated these attacks, they were all here legally. Now, what we should do, and I know I'm on some bills, we need to make sure that people can't buy these assault weapons, which are the weapons of choice to kill a lot of people in a short period of time. How much longer are we going to lose American lives until we deal with that issue? We're not talking, again, about violating Second Amendment. We're talking about assault weapons, weapons that individuals can come and purchase commercially. Now, these weapons, these weapons that were used, and they're AR-15s. They were manufactured to use in our military, and to have them being sold commercially is wrong. And we need to stand up, and I think the United States public are behind us to say enough's enough. We have to stop this carnage, and we've got to make sure that individuals can't go and buy these attack weapons.
Maryland Congressman Dutch Ruppersberger, thank you for your time.
Okay, take care.
Now in this week's Primetime Living, produced in partnership with the Maryland Department of Aging and its Maryland Access Point service, we are joined in studio by Dr. Peter Gorman of the University of Maryland's Rehabilitation and Orthopedic Institute. Doctor, thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
We want to focus on the rehabilitation that can be done after someone has a stroke. What are the challenges that somebody faces in that situation?
Well, a stroke can manifest itself in very myriad of ways. Often people think about a stroke as just being a motor loss, a loss of motor control, a weakness in one side of the body or the other. But it also can be a visual problem, a problem with swallowing, a problem with balance, a problem with communication, a problem with thinking. So it's a myriad of problems that can occur when a person has a stroke.
What's the natural course of the impact of that? So somebody's life, if it is a first stroke, life is going along fine. All of a sudden you have what you call a brain attack,
yes,
and some degree of impairment results. How much can you recover towards where you were, and how long does that typically take?
Well, it really is varied one person versus another. It's very individualized. And depends on the severity of the stroke. In other words, how much of the brain has been affected by the loss of blood flow to the brain. And it depends also on the person's general health, whether there are other coexisting illnesses that make it difficult to recover, say, for instance, diabetes, high blood pressure, other problems such as that. The general recovery is over days, weeks, and months.
Is there a point of diminishing returns when you get to 6 months or a year out? No matter how much intensive therapy you do you see fewer results?
Well, I think that the older ideas were that indeed there was some type of plateau at about 6 months, but I think thinking has now changed, that the idea of rehabilitation at 6 months, at 9 months, at a year, and at forever throughout the rest of the remaining person's life is really important to maintain health. So there is more thinking nowadays in the medical community, in the neurologic community, that stroke rehabilitation is a lifelong endeavor.
What's the role of technology now in stroke rehabilitation?
Sure. Well, we now have certain robotic devices that can aid a person with stroke rehabilitation and assist physical therapists and occupational therapists, for instance, in improving the mobility of arms and legs. These robotic devices, some of them are mounted on a desk, some of them are available for mobility during ambulation or walking. So there are various things coming to market, coming into the clinics that are available for these patients. They're not a panacea, but they do help.
Let me remind our viewers, if you have a question about stroke rehabilitation, you can give us a call. We'll have the number up on the screen. You could also tweet your questions. The Twitter address is @MPT News. Talk a little about the mental side of this. So on my previous analogy where somebody's life is going along fine and they hit this horrible speed bump,
yes,
it's not just a physical problem.
No, clearly it's not, and it depends a little bit on where in the brain the stroke has occurred. For instance, in most people, the left side of the brain is where our language centers are. So indeed, if the stroke has affected that part of the brain, the ability to communicate, whether to understand verbal or written language or to express verbal or written language can be severely affected. In people who have strokes on the other side of the brain, their spatial capabilities may be impaired, and in either condition there can be cognitive deficits, especially if one has had multiple strokes over their life.
I should have asked that differently. I was thinking psychological as opposed to
Sure.
mental. But say someone's mental functioning is not severely affected, but they have some physical deficits. There's a psychological impact of that.
This is true, and there is an increased incidence of depression in people with stroke, people who have had a stroke. It's a reactive depression. In other words, it occurs because of the fact that they have changed, their body image has indeed changed, their abilities to get around the world has changed, and their capabilities to interact with family and friends has changed. But there may be some biological and chemical changes that occur in the brain with a stroke that make it more likely for these people to be depressed.
We're seeing some physical therapy being done. Is the psychological side something that you focus on at the same time?
Sure. I think we in the inpatient rehabilitation setting, which is indeed the setting that best helps people recover, it's a multidisciplinary program. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, cognitive therapy, recreation therapy, physician help to prevent a secondary stroke, nursing help to help with mobility and bowel and bladder functions. These all come together in the inpatient rehabilitation setting to affect the best outcome, we believe, in stroke rehabilitation.
Let's grab a phone call. Baltimore City, this is Tania. Tania, thank you for the call. Go ahead.
Hello, yes. I was just wondering, is it possible to have a stroke or a mini stroke without any medical evidence? Because a few years back I had a incident where my left side started getting weakness, but with the CAT scans and everything that was proven, it was no evidence. Is there any way that it's possible that I might have had a mini stroke? I've been having problems with one side of my body. I've had memory loss and everything. Is it possible that I might have had a mini stroke?
Thank you for the call. Best of luck, and we'll get you an answer on the air.
Yes, it is certainly possible that a very, very small stroke that may not be easily detectable by a CAT scan or an MRI may cause significant impairment in a person, because there is certain, for lack of a better term, critical real estate in the brain that, if affected by lack of blood flow, could really cause significant deficits. Small vessel strokes can do that.
Prince George's County, this is Myra. Myra, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. About 4 years ago, I was getting ready to go to work, and I had something that was like a little stroke, because my mother and father and my grandfather have all had strokes. And then later, a couple of days later, I had the same symptoms as I was leaving work. And I ended up having to go to the hospital at Anne Arundel, and they said I had two, and there's a name for it, like TI something.
TIAs?
Right. They said I had two of them, and it was like a warning.
Yes.
So I was on high blood pressure, Prozac, and all this medicine, statin. And I myself just took myself off of everything, and I haven't had that again. But I'm just wondering,
well,
should I keep in touch with a cardiologist, or I haven't had anything like that since then? Thank you.
Myra, we'll get you the answer on the air. Thank you for the phone call.
Well, yes, what she is talking about is a TIA, or transient or temporary ischemic lack of blood flow attack, TIA. These are episodes where the brain loses its blood flow to certain small areas temporarily, less than 24 hours, and then can recover. So it's suggestive that there is some blood flow problem in a given area of the brain. It is a serious warning sign, and I do think that those things should be treated seriously. So this individual and people like her should maintain a good relationship with a primary care physician so that blood pressure, diabetes, smoking cessation can occur to reduce the risk of having a TIA turn into a full-blown stroke.
Let's talk to Susan in Queen Anne's County. Susan, thank you for the call. Go ahead.
Yes, my husband had a stroke in October, and recently friends have been asking or telling me that they've heard about stem cell research being done for stroke victims. And I'm wondering if there is anything going on.
Susan, thank you. Best of luck.
Well, I'm not specifically aware of a stem cell research program in the States. There are in China, in some other countries. There are some programs, I believe, that are being set up in the Californias. The idea of stem cells, let me just define that term. Stem cells are cells of the body that can morph or change into any particular type of cells. They are sort of potential cells that can change into, for instance, in the case of stroke, neurons or nerve cells. The hypothesis is that, well, these cells may be able to recover and repair damaged areas of the brain or the spinal cord. These things are clearly experimental at this time. I would refer people who are interested in this to a website, clinicaltrials.gov, which is a clearinghouse to all the trials for things like that. Clinicaltrials.gov is the United States clearinghouse for clinical trials, and if you search within that about stem cells and stroke, you might be able to find centers that might be doing this type of work.
Before we run out of time, we always want to say when we're on the subject of a stroke that you need to take the warning signs that some callers have talked about very seriously. If somebody develops certain symptoms, it's an emergency and you're in a hurry, what would you advise?
Sure. So we talk about stroke as being a brain attack, just like a heart attack. It is a medical emergency. If a person has weakness on one side of the body or the other, difficulty swallowing that comes on suddenly, change in vision that comes on suddenly, well, there may be a lack of blood flow to the brain. I do recommend these people go to an emergency room or call 911 to get acute care. There are ways nowadays that some, not everybody, but some people can receive blood clotbuster medications to reduce the chance of a larger stroke. So that's really important.
Very good. Dr. Peter Gorman, Associate Professor of Neurology at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. Doctor, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
Do appreciate it. Just ahead, MPT salutes Vietnam veterans.
For Father's Day weekend, there's no better way to honor fathers and grandfathers who served in the Vietnam War than to attend LZ Maryland. This two-day event caps off our salute to Vietnam veterans, and it's open to everyone. Join us at the Maryland State Fairgrounds in Timonium for ceremonies, music, displays, and most important, a heartfelt thank you to Vietnam-era veterans. Visit our website now for details. We just thought you ought to know.
Meet a Maryland farmer who harvests corn and crabs.
The impact will be felt on the water if you are not doing things properly.
And how do horses help wounded warriors?
It's just amazing seeing the horse reflect what you're feeling.
Only on Maryland Farm and Harvest.
Tuesday night at 7 on MPT.
The birds stop singing. Insects stop making noise. You walk into a death trap.
It was the mid-60s and America was going to war. U.S. troops were dropped into the jungles of Vietnam, and the mission was simple: defeat the Viet Cong or die trying. Watch Escalation, part 1 of this 3-part series on Maryland Vietnam War stories.
Tuesday night at 8 on MPT.
Joining us now is Tom Glenn, a Vietnam War veteran and author of Friendly Casualties. Tom, thanks for being with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We have the big MPT Vietnam event coming up this weekend. The documentary just aired. You were a part of that.
Yes.
Your experiences were a little bit unusual because you were in and out of Vietnam over a period of 13 years.
Yes.
What were you doing?
I was a clandestine employee of the National Security Agency, NSA. I was going back and forth to Vietnam, supporting combat units, Marine and Army, in combat. And then at the very end, in 1974, I went back to head the NSA clandestine organization in Vietnam. and I lived through the fall of Saigon.
And obviously got out, but I've read your account of it. It was harrowing, and it wasn't just you. Your family was there, and you had dozens of people working for you.
Yes, I had 43 guys working for me. Their families were living there. I had to get all those people out. And the problem was that the ambassador wouldn't allow me to evacuate any of my people because he didn't believe we were going to be attacked. He didn't believe the intelligence I was giving him. So I lied and cheated and stole to get them out.
You sent a lot of people on vacations elsewhere in Asia.
Absolutely, and home leave and phony TDY, temporary duty, change of station, that kind of thing. Anything I could think of to get them out of the country. And toward the end, I took money from my own pocket, bought a ticket on Pan Am with no authorization, no orders, put a guy on the plane and said, go.
And that was the last plane, that was the last Pan Am flight.
That was the last Pan Am flight out of Saigon.
You wrote.
Yeah.
So your experiences were only recently declassified.
That's true, yeah. Last year, as a matter of fact, I had been writing. I have a new book coming out next year that is set during the fall of Saigon. I wanted to get all that information declassified so I could put it in the book. And I finally succeeded in getting that done.
I have two of your books here. Is it the Trion syndrome? This is your most recent.
Yes.
Tell me about your work as an author.
I've been writing since I was 6 years old. I write about things that are very important to me, things I cannot avoid writing about. The Trion syndrome is about a man suffering from post-traumatic stress injury, which I suffer from, and how finally his son helps him find his way back home again.
Your previous books, what's been the focus?
No Accounts is about a straight man taking care of a gay man dying of AIDS, because I did that for about 5 years. I did it because I had to escape from my own memories from post-traumatic stress injury, and when I'm working with other people who need help, I'm so focused on them, my memories recede into the background.
It's still something you think about after all these years?
Oh yes, it'll be with me forever.
Yeah. The signals intelligence part of what we do, I mean, the NSA and what it does is in the news a lot in terms of digital media.
Yeah.
This was before the digital age,
yes.
and it was, I guess, completely different in some ways and very similar in others.
It was completely different in the sense that what we were working with were low-level communications, very primitive communications by the North Vietnamese, manual Morse, voice, HF, VHF, and finding ways to intercept all those signals and exploit them.
It helped to have excellent linguistic abilities, which you do.
Yeah, I was very competent in French, Vietnamese, and Chinese when I first went to Vietnam, and got plenty of use of those languages while I was there.
How did you pick them up?
Oh boy. I joined the Army in 1958 to go to the Army Language School to study Chinese, a language that I had always wanted to know. I already spoke French and Italian at that point. But instead of that, they taught me Vietnamese for a full year, intensive study. And then when I got out of it in 1961, I wanted to go to Vietnam, but instead they sent me to the National Security Agency because the first in class always goes to NSA. I was there until I converted to civilian status in 1962, and immediately NSA sent me to Vietnam.
You said the first in the class always goes to the NSA?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's the top of the class?
Well, yeah, the demands at NSA are huge for linguists. I mean, you're dealing with very difficult stuff.
Before I run out of time, give me your thoughts on what's happening this weekend at the Maryland Fairgrounds in Timonium, LZ, Maryland. You get more information on that on our website at mpt.org. What does it mean for somebody who spent so many years in Vietnam to see you and your comrades publicly saluted for really the first time?
You need to understand, I was coming back from Vietnam over and over and over again. A half dozen times I landed in San Francisco, ran into crowds who jeered at me and spat on me. And I was ashamed, and for years I didn't even speak of Vietnam. To be honored after all this time is extremely moving and very important to me.
Afraid we have to leave it there. Tom Glenn, more about him on their website at mpt.org. Have a good night.
This program was made by MPT to serve all of our diverse communities.